Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video. And you guys saw that title, you saw that thumbnail. You guys know I wouldn't bring anyone else onto this discussion besides MJ over at MJxTV. Man, why don't you say hello to everyone listening?
What's going on, guys? MJ here.
This guy. Anyway, guys, so you guys saw that stuff. We're going to be talking about today whether or not Toei, in particular, I'm not necessarily sure, and we could talk about it generally if you guys want to talk about it in the comment section below, feel free to, but we're going to be talking about, is Toei gearing up to do a future without Toriyama at the helm of Dragon Ball Super? And, you know, we all know that his involvement basically relies on a PowerPoint, basically dotted timeline notes about like what's going on, when the story is going to play out, and what major points to actually follow. He gives it to Toei, he gives it to Toritaro, and then they go out and do their own separate stories that have the same general aspects but have very, very differing minute details on them. So I'm just wondering this. One of the things, if you've been around this community for a long time, especially if you are aware of Geekdom 101's channel, he has said this multiple times in the past. Not as much these days, but definitely multiple times in the past. And I think he's absolutely right. Toriyama, for all the criticism Dragon Ball Super has received over the last 2 years, Toriyama has created a plethora of story-related aspects that Toei or anyone else can explore long after he decides to get out of the game. And to be fair, this wasn't necessarily something Toei had or anything at their disposal after the end of Dragon Ball Z. Let's just break this down. After the Cell arc, which Cell basically brings back the entire Red Ribbon Army, brings in the androids, brings in Cell, feels like it actually is really kind of well connected to the other parts of the story of Dragon Ball because of those aspects. But it's really random considering the fact that Dragon Ball Z literally started with Raditz, moved to Vegeta and Nappa, then went to Frieza. At the same time, we kind of had to jump off of that into something a little bit bigger. So we got time travel and Cell and Super Saiyan 2 and all this other stuff. And then right after that, we literally go into Buu, who has no connection anywhere. And they completely resolve that, at least in storytelling wise, in a couple days. Buu is out of the picture within a couple days. And then they do a time skip where they have Oob. And then at the same time, when Toriyama wants to stop doing the manga and they have no real source material, they have to sit there and be like, this is too profitable, we need to do something else. But we literally have no story to go on. And as much just unbelievable crap that Dragon Ball GT gets, you have to give it credit for the very fact that it really tried to do something that played off of a lot of story aspects that Toei had created through filler throughout the run of Dragon Ball Z. And I really do respect that. But they didn't have anything else to go on besides that stuff. Now they have so much to go on. You have other universes, you have bits and pieces of dialogue the same way they had in Dragon Ball GT to literally jump off. So if Toriyama literally stops writing today and all they have is the whatever he's written so far, the turn of power and how this is going to play out, he can literally retire. And there's enough material that's been given to us throughout the first 100 episodes of Dragon Ball Super to literally keep us going for 200 more episodes if Toei decides. So I know that was a mouthful, MJ. What are your thoughts on this? Do you feel like they might be gearing up? Is this what Toriyama's plan is, you think? Or at the same time, do you think Toriyama has no desire to end his involvement anytime soon?
I agree. End of the video. So guys, make sure you sub to Mark. No, I'm just kidding. That was a mouthful, and yeah, I do agree to an extent because I feel like they are gearing up for it, bro. Like, I mentioned this in a previous video that will be on your channel, and it was talking about how, with the plot points and all that, and how I don't want to say his involvement isn't, you know, because if I remember correctly, there's an interview where it says he does check up on the anime stuff, and him and Toyotaro literally supposedly work on characters together, so he is involved, you know what I mean? But he is getting older and time's passing, you know, so I can definitely see that they are gearing up for that because look at what he's giving them, you know, 12 universes, you know, all this stuff, the Xenos, I mean, all the hero stuff. Right now, with as popular as Dragon Ball is, because people forget this, This is, you can look this up. I'm not making this up. This is, you can find this stuff on the internet if you just know where to look. in Japan, the Boo arc was already declining. GT didn't really help because GT started like a month afterwards. You know what I mean? There really wasn't a break there. People were at that point in time were getting a bit tired of Dragon Ball at that point in time. Right now, Dragon Ball's at its peak. You got Dokkan, you got Super, you got the Dragon Room, you got Heroes, you got all this stuff, all these video games. Right now, Dragon Ball is at its highest, not its highest point, is at a high point right now. The merch is still amazing. Just because it's not getting great TV ratings, I believe it's number 1 or number 2 in merch. You know, competing with shows like My Hero Academia and One Piece. So it definitely has a stake, and it's at its high point right now. So if they wanted to, you're all right, because at the time, one of the biggest things with GT was people said it had good ideas, but it had bad execution. Things were rushed, you know, things were thin, you know, they had to cut the show short, you know what I mean? Here, I mean, they have all the time in the world, you know what I mean? They have, I assume, you know, they could create ideas off of everything that's been given to them with all the different universes, you know what I mean?
They had good ideas, but I think one of the things they, I guess, ran into, whether they had these ideas going in or not, or they were taking notes in order to kind of help GT further on, it felt like they started the series going, well, we want to get back to the roots of the show, more of an adventure show. We're going to make Goku a kid again and try to harken back to the whole good old Dragon Ball days. Maybe that was what they wanted to do, but then the whole baby thing introduced. Maybe they were taking notes saying, like, you know, you got to get back to basics and everything. Oh, we don't know what to do. You know, like, we're going so far out of our comfort zone, and we've taken this show so far out of its comfort zone with all these different planets across the universe that potentially, just potentially, there was no further story to tell after this, so they had to come up with something. And like I said, they came up with a story, not just the first story, but the whole Super 17 story as well, that really hinged on certain little scenes that they had placed throughout the original series. And I really, really appreciate that. You can criticize it all you want, but it was a testament to how much they appreciated the show and how much the writers, whether they did a good job or not, really loved the content because they remembered this stuff. And this wasn't stuff that they had said literally days or something, gone over literally days before Dragon Ball Z ended and Dragon Ball GT started. This was something that they had produced and distributed and talked about years before. It takes a really dedicated creative mind, whether you're a fan or whether you'd been working on there for a long time, to sit there and go, you remember this incredibly minute plot point. We can develop an entire arc around that. And to this day, regardless of what people think about GT, they still believe that someone like Baby is one of the most interesting things that the series has ever done thus far. I believe if they are creating a world or creating stories outside of Toriyama's influence, or maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe that's why, even though Toriyama might not say anything at all about in his notes about the destroyed 6 universes, or, you know, or Toritaro talking about, you know, who was the first time traveler or something like that. I imagine for the most part that Toei is literally doing the same thing here with little small pieces of dialogue, literally building the blocks so they know that Toriyama's not going to be here forever. This is too good to let go, so we're going to have to save ourselves, and we're going to have to know exactly where we're going after this guy decides to leave. And the one thing about all of this is the mere fact that Toriyama potentially, just potentially, might be closer to leaving than we are willing to admit or even know at this point. Because as cool as the Tournament of Power actually was, you have said it, I have said it, I think most of the general Dragon Ball community knows or has heard or at least believes this at some level. The Tournament of Power always, since the moment Zeno said he wanted to do it with all the other universes, has felt like an endgame. It just doesn't seem like something that you put smack dab in the middle of one of the most popular shows in anime right now. And I just think that that's weird in my opinion.
I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. Legit. I feel like people are going to tear me apart in the comment section when I say this, but Hallfoo Ark, even though it was bad, the whole point of the arc and like behind it, the core, I thought was fantastic. bad execution, and people give Toei a lot of shit. But let me paint a picture to why. Yeah, let me paint a picture to why that is good. And you may disagree with me, Mark, which is fine, but let me just paint the picture real quick. So you look at this planet in the middle of nowhere. Now, we know there's people because in GT, this is introduced, there's people who have spaceships, they go around, they can do stuff, you know what I mean? They can steal stuff and all that, you know, that's nothing new. Frieza did it, Frieza ruled, right? Here, it's kind of telling us that that's the concept. There are bandits who roam the universe and go from planet to planet, right? Yeah, this is also another comic books, you know, this is another material. It ain't just something that's pulled out of someone's ass. This is actually an established thing. There are bandits and stuff within the universe if you want to follow that type of rule. And supposedly, on this planet, Planet Patafu, it's been fucked with before. It's been messed with before. They don't got hyperbolic time chambers. They don't got Saiyans. So what they did was they created like this thing that is not natural. It's beyond a natural creation, and they used it because when someone would come to the planet, they could have a way to fend them off. But the idea was that the more it consumed, the stronger it got. The more it consumed from evil, it became evil itself. It became like a monstrous creation, so they had to lock it up. Very similar to the Prince of Darkness movie by John Carpenter, which I love. Fantastic film. If you've not seen it, go check it out. I think that's a very interesting idea, you know what I mean? Because obviously the planet's been messed with, and you know, they created this to protect the planet, and then it got evil, and then they had to lock it away, and then it's been passed down from generation to generation to someone who's finally that panda that we saw, right? That's a very cool idea for a villain. That's awesome. However, though, the execution, not so much. They rehashed the Majin Vegeta stuff. They have Vegeta and Goku save the day, where it could have been a Goten Trunks oriented arc, so on and so forth. So Toei gets a lot of shit, but they can come up with a lot of cool ideas, and the baby one obviously being an example of this, taking little minuscule lines, taking little minuscule scenes from their own filler, creating villains out of it. You mentioned it when you were doing your thing there. You mentioned that baby is one of the best villains, or just one of the people who look at it as one of the best villains, or the best created villains, best story arcs out of Dragon Ball's entirety. Talking about the stuff we see from Toriyama, you know? So, yeah, I mean, Toei gets a bad rep, but they can really come up with some cool stuff when they really want to. And the idea that if Toriyama does leave, and if that is the case, which is probably gonna happen sooner or later, they have a lot of stuff to go off of. You know, even we did a video on your channel, so hopefully it's up by then. We did a video talking about if Super's like wasting its potential here. We talked about the universes and stuff. If they even get rid of most of the universes and there's only 5 left, that's still some stuff to go off of, you know? That still is some stuff to go off of. So I can definitely see if Toriyama were to leave. I do feel like Toei is in good hands, especially at this current point in time with how hype everything is, and with all these video games and all these mobile games and the Dragon Room, etc.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I mean, just in general, the overarching extended universe of Dragon Ball offers more potential than where Dragon Ball was when Buu actually ended, that Buu arc, with the whole Oob thing and everything. They didn't have all this stuff to go off of. I guess you could say, and they really did kind of do this with the whole Super 17 arc. They basically ripped off the whole Fusion Reborn idea, honestly. And they tried to adapt it. Now, like you said, execution is always the mother of all Dragon Ball controversy or even hate that it gets. It's like, oh, the cool idea, but bad execution. That's fine. Given everything that they have now, though, is just so awesome, because I've been focusing mostly on, like we had movies and we have GT stuff and we have just general things that were mentioned just briefly in other aspects of this particular show. We haven't even talked about the extended universe, right? All of the waves that Android 21 is getting, all of the cool stuff that we've seen through Heroes and Xenoverse with Toa and Mira, or Demigra, or anything else like that, is all now open. Time Breakers, Time Patrol, like, all of it's now open for business. I cannot imagine. Maybe I can imagine Toriyama going, that's cool, I'll help design it, but I don't want it having anything to do with my show. That's fine. If he leaves, and I might be on the hate group for this as well, but if Toriyama leaves, it really does give a business incentive for Toei to go, okay, well, we want to use Toe and Mirror because they are incredibly popular characters in other mediums of this particular series. Why not give the show a platform to expand their characters even further? Or the time breakers or anything else like that. We've already explored these elements before. Let's just keep exploring them. I think that that's an awesome concept. And it really allows the story to free up and tell much bigger stories than we've been seeing thus far. And huge arcs, you know, One Piece level arcs where it's like, this has been going on for 3 years, but at least it's still good, you know?
No, yeah, I completely agree, man. Like I guess what we're saying here is that Toei gets a bad rep, but they can come up with some stuff. Horrible execution, though. They just need to work on that execution.
I did want to say, though, like, I will disagree with you in the Hallfoo Ark. I feel like it's super unfair to talk about horrible execution when they literally had, like, 2 or 3 episodes. Because that story, as you were describing earlier, has a lot of depth into it, but not enough time to fully execute it. And at the same time, well, that's giving too much praise to it, really, because, like you said, Vegeta and Goku coming in and saving the day really hampers that story down. And considering it happens so quickly after everything really starts to boil down to, I wish they wouldn't do this. But at the same time, like I said, Toei is a business, and they know Goku and Vegeta sell.
Yeah,
so
it's a shame
to literally not have them in an episode or 2 would probably be a little bit more detrimental than they'd want, and that's not that fair.
Which is funny because I know we're gonna be off topic here, but what's funny is, remember the Gohan episodes? Goku was hardly in those. I think, and I don't even remember Vegeta was in them at all. I think he may have been in one scene, but like Goku was hardly in those. So that's funny. Maybe because Gohan sells, but that's what I'm saying. How come they didn't have Gohan go with Jocko? It's a simple little story. He goes over to return a book to Bulma. He finds out Goten and Trunks are missing, so he goes with Jocko. Can you imagine that? A Gohan who's been taken over by the water. An actual
and then
Gotenks, so it's
has to fight him.
and Jocko and Monaka versus the evil Gohan. And think about it, that's almost an idea that's never really been. It's been there, you know. We saw it a bit in the Buu arc with filler, but we've already had Majin Vegeta. We had Saiyan Saga Vegeta. You know, Gohan wasn't the one who was polluted during the Garlic Jr. arc. It would have been cool to finally get like an evil version of Gohan, you know, because we've hardly ever gotten that. So, again, Toei, call me. I'll help you write the ideas, man. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. So, guys, we're just going to leave it at that. I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation. Like we said all the time, it's not just with me and MJ having this discussion. It's with all you guys as well. So please make sure to share all your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Also, go down to the description section below where you're going to find a link to MJ's channel. Please make sure to go check him out and subscribe if you haven't already. You really should. I don't know why you aren't. Anyway, at the same time, I want everyone to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button. It's going to notify you every single time I upload. But with that being said, guys, hope everyone has a good day. It's been real.